Hello students, welcome to our today lecture. In our today lecture, we are going to discuss the difference between stationary and non-stationary data. Basically, it is very important to check that either your data is stationary or non-stationary. Before analyzing this, you cannot implement any econometrics technique for the prediction of your data set. So it is very important to know that whether your data is stationary or non-stationary. So before moving on to the lecture, let's discuss that what is mean by stationary data. Time series is said to be stationary if it is statistical properties such as mean, variance, and autocorrelation are constant over time. So basically, a data is said to be stationary if its mean, variance, and autocorrelation is constant. Then this particular data set is said to be stationary. Otherwise, this data will fall in the category of non-stationary. So there are basically three major characteristics for the existence of stationary data. First characteristic is that there should be a constant mean. If you check the mean of our data, if you are going to check the mean for first 10 years, then for the next 10 years, and then for the next 10 years, so this will give you the same mean or the constant mean and the constant variance, and there is no autocorrelation in the data set. So the next characteristics is the constant variance, and third is the constant autocorrelation. So if any data set have these three characteristics in it, then that particular data set is said to be stationary data. So here is the example of the stationary data: 10, 12, 13, 12, 11, 13. And if we take a mean of this data set, then its data set mean is around about 12, and its variance is also mean about 12, or around about 12. So basically, as you can see that there is no much difference between the values of the data set. There is very less difference or marginal difference between the every new value. So this there are some values above than 12, and there are some values below than 12. So overall, when we calculate error term, then it will give us zero mean, and its value should be zero. Then there is zero error, because some values are above than the mean and some values are below than the mean. So there must be some values positive, and there some must value should be negative. So the positive negative will neglect or will offset each other, and remaining error term or the remaining residual will be zero. So this is the example for the time series data, and at the last of the lecture we will discuss graphically that how can we show that a data set is stationary or non-stationary in a graphical form. So next move to the non-stationary data. So basically, non-stationary data is a data set that whose value is changing over time period, or they are showing increasing trend over time series. And in case of non-stationary data, the mean, variance, and autocorrelations are not constant because they are showing increasing trend. So when you calculate mean from different values or variance from different values, it will give you different mean, different variance, and different autocorrelation over the period of time. So in case of non-stationary data, you are not having constant mean, constant variance, and constant autocorrelation. And if you look at this data set, you can see that this particular data set is showing increasing trend over the time period. So for example, if I will take a mean of first these three values, it will give me a different mean, and then if I calculate a mean from these values to these values, it will give me a different mean. Similarly, same is the case for variance. So in case of non-stationary data, we don't have constant mean, we don't have constant variance, and we don't have constant autocorrelation, because the data is increasing over the period of time. It shows a increasing trend. So now come to the visualization of time series data. How can we visualize the data if the data set is stationary or non-stationary? So for this we have to plot a graph, and its mean and variance fluctuate in our constant value. So this will tell us that our data set is stationary. And for case of the non-stationary data, for the case of non-stationary data, it will show a increasing trend or decreasing trend. So the trend will be the same. Either it is increasing or either it is decreasing. So it does not fluctuate over a constant mean. So now come to the importance of the stationary data. So why stationary data is so much important in econometrics model or in any time series data set. So the first importance of the stationary data is that it is easier model to predict. We can easily predict or forecast for the next time period on the basis of time series data. But on the other hand, if we have non-stationary data, it is not easier for us to build a model or forecast for the future on the basis of non-stationary data. So there are basically two tests for the estimation of stationary data. One is called ADF test or the augmented Digifuller test, and the second one is the Phillips-Persson test. So these two are the famous tests which are used for the checking of the stationary data. So now let's come a quick picture that how we can analyze on the basis of graph that our data set is stationary or non-stationary. In this graph you can see there are two time series data. On the left hand side you can see that this particular data set is fluctuating over a constant mean. Here you can see that this data has a constant mean and constant variance. So this is the original data. So there are some values which are above than the mean, and there are some values which are below than the mean. Similarly, here you can see that there are some values below than mean and some values are above the mean. So when we sum up of these values, the remaining result will be 0. So the positive and negative will affect each other and we will come to the here at the mean value. So this data set is said to be stationary data. On the right hand side, as you can see that this data is set non-stationary data. Why? As you can see that this data set is increasing over the time period and this data set has no constant mean. In this case, on the left hand side you can see that this red line is showing constant mean, but on the other hand, in case of non-stationary data we don't have constant mean. Why? Because there is a trend in the data. So any data which have trend in it, that data set should be that data set is said to be non-stationary data, because we cannot calculate a constant mean. So it give us constant mean over the time period. So we cannot predict or forecast any analysis on the basis of non-stationary data. On the other hand, in the case of stationary data we can predict or forecast our analysis. So this is the major difference between that. How can we analyze graphically? If a data set is showing increasing or decreasing trend, that data set is said to be non-stationary, and if data set is fluctuate over a constant mean, then this particular data set is said to be stationary data. I hope that you have learned something new from our today lecture. So if you have any question you can ask me freely.